Hello, everyone. Welcome to Purple Friends.
Welcome.
I'm your co-host, Joe.
And I'm your Joe host, Co.
I'm never going to get used to that.
It always gives you a little stop every time. Listen, y'all, we missed an episode. We're so sorry. So much stuff happened. Like, I couldn't even point at one thing. There was physical health stuff, mental health stuff, like scheduling stuff.
Yeah.
There was so much that happened. Like, our kid barfed seriously 20 times, you guys. It was so not cool.
It was so not cool. And then I barfed 20 times.
Yeah, and I haven't barfed yet, but I did have to clean up and see a lot of barf.
Yeah. I feel like that's just as bad.
Well, I don't think that's... As a person who just recently threw up, I'm sure you'd think
I don't know.
worse.
It's kind of...
It can be pretty challenging to clean up, especially fragrant. I can't talk about this.
Don't use the word fragrant.
Sorry. Okay.
You're going to make me barf.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
Okay, we're not talking about barf.
I know. Please, let's change the subject.
Oh my God. You know what? We're just grateful for an understanding audience that understand that
Life happened.
life happens.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us and for coming back. We appreciate you. And now for the content.
Oh my God, I did not even think of any little grateful.
You didn't? You need to think of one because mine is going to be kind of long and it comes with a little activity.
Do you want to go first?
Well, we might forget about yours.
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
I won't forget.
Okay.
Maybe I'll come up with one while we're doing yours.
Sure. Okay. My little grateful.
Wait, I have one.
Go.
My little grateful is chocolate milk.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Isn't it such a good one?
Yeah.
I've been really drinking a lot of chocolate milk recently. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Cheese from Foster's Home of Imaginary Friends.
Whoa.
And he loves chocolate milk.
Cheese
and
loves
that's
chocolate
all
milk.
I think about now is just chocolate milk. And we need to go to the grocery store after this
And
to get
some
more.
chocolate milk. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you like about it? What do you like about that chocolatey cow juice?
It's so good. I mean, apart from it being chocolate,
Yeah.
I also like the Fairlife chocolate milk has extra protein. So it's it kind of feels like a protein shake.
Yeah, it's really
A
thick.
meal replacement
Delicious.
shake. And as a busy gal like me, sometimes I just need a little something on the go. And chocolate milk,
It's not what they're usually talking about when they say busy gal who needs something on the go.
but you know what? It does the job. It fills me up. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Chocolate milk. Our daughter refuses to even try it. She is freaked out by chocolate milk.
Or just milk in general. She's not a milk person at all.
Yeah. I don't know why. She's just scared of milk.
She turned 1 and said, no more milk.
Seriously. Go away. Thank you.
Okay.
My turn?
Yes.
Okay. My little grateful is the Land Before Time movies.
Oh my gosh.
The Land Before Time movies with an S, not just the first
Because
one.
there are 10 of them.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because there's actually more than 10 of them and they get truly wild by the end. The thing that I like about, before we get to that, the thing that I love about these and why I'm so grateful for them is that they're something from my childhood that I can share with our daughter.
And she loves them.
She loves them. It's I don't know, not everything from your own childhood is going to click with your kid, but there's been a couple things that I have showed her trepidatiously, do you like this? Secretly is one of my favorite things. And she has of her own volition liked Land Before Time and also Pokemon. And if you know me, dinosaurs and Pokemon is two things that I'm very into.
Yep.
But I think that they're nice. They are incredibly cheesy and poorly made, especially the middle ones and the later ones. But they have a vast variety of stories and silly things. And because of that, I was wondering if I could tempt you with a quiz.
Okay. A Land Before Time quiz?
A Land Before Time quiz. So, question 1, Land Before Time.
Yeah.
So, real quick, Land Before Time, it's about Littlefoot and his friends. Littlefoot, in the first movie, his mom, spoiler alert, she dies.
The first movie is a very different vibe from the rest of them.
Yeah.
2 through 20.
They're sing-alongs.
Yeah.
But the first one is not.
Is dark and sad.
And scary a lot of times.
Yeah. And Littlefoot's mom dies.
Yeah, so Littlefoot's mom dies. There's no mention of Littlefoot's dad.
Ever. Well.
So we think. So here's question 1. Littlefoot's long-lost father returns with a giant herd of other long necks and puts Littlefoot in the difficult position of either coming with him and the group of long necks when he decides to migrate again, or stay with his ailing grandparents and his friends with no other long necks. What is Littlefoot's father's name, and in which number movie did he return? Here are the 4 choices for his name.
Oh, great.
Bron, Grom, Trong, Drond.
Oh my God. I know what movie it's from. What number movie?
What number?
I believe it's 10.
It is 10. Very good. Okay.
Land Before Time and the Great Long Neck Migration.
I am stunned. That was so exceeding my expectations.
Amari recently watched that one.
Oh, okay.
And dang, his freaking name. What is it? Is it Bron?
It is Bron. Congratulations. Now for the next question. In The Land Before Time 12, The Stone of Cold Fire, Petrie's Uncle Tarano is obsessed with finding a glowing meteor he saw fall from the sky, believing it will give him magical powers. It turns out the stone is special after all, when the dinosaurs known as the Rainbow Faces are equally interested in it. And what is special about the Rainbow Faces? They're from the future, they are zombies, they are from another dimension, or they are aliens.
Oh my God, I have never seen this one. And all of that sounded like nonsense.
It was nonsense.
They gotta be aliens.
They are aliens. Congratulations. Yes, they're not from another dimension, but they are aliens, which is...
What is he eating? He was eating something.
He swallowed the bug.
Sorry.
Okay, Land Before Time 11. I promise there's only a few more of these. But don't worry, it's gold. Invasion of the Tiny Sauruses. Sarah's father, Mr. Threehorn, reunites with an old flame named Tria. Sarah is understandably upset about this new dynamic. Sarah is Littlefoot's little three-horn friend.
She's a little...
Yeah, she is a little So this leads to plenty of step three-horn drama. And to make things even stranger, Tria is bright bubblegum pink, while the rest of the three-horns are varying earth tones. What is the name of the baby she has with Mr. Three-Horn? Is it Tuggy, Trisha, Topsy, or Trip?
Say them again?
Tuggy, Trisha, Topsy, or Trip?
I want to say Trisha, just because it's the most boring.
It is Trisha. You're doing incredibly well right now. Okay. In Land Before Time, hold on, Roman numerals. Land Before Time 14, Journey of the Brave, Littlefoot's father is back again, and this time he's trapped in a volcano. The gang has to travel to Fire Mountain to save him, and along the way they get stuck in a cave and meet a cheerful pteranodon named Edda, who breaks into a motivational country pop anthem called Look for the Light to give them the courage to keep going. Which singer voiced Edda? And bonus question, well, hold on, we'll get to the bonus question next. Was it Dolly Parton, Shania Twain, Reba McEntire, or Faith Hill?
No way.
Remember, this is Land Before Time 14.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm like, the only one I would not be disappointed at being would be Reba.
It is Reba. Wow.
Everybody else, I'd be like, that's so disappointing.
Hey, man, you haven't seen that one. You don't know. Okay.
14.
Oh, there's a couple of them where they upped the budget a little bit. It's 10 and 14. Those have slightly higher budgets, and it shows. Okay, and the bonus question.
They hired Reba.
I know, right? They had Reba money. As bonus question, which main cast member of New Girl voiced the character Wild Arms? You can name the character or the actor.
I want to say, without you giving me A, B, C, or D, it's the Schmidt.
So close. Your first miss. It's actually Coach Damon Wayans Jr.
You know, I think I'm misremembering that.
He did come back.
Huh?
He comes back.
I don't know. I know he comes back in the series. I was going to say, I think he went to COD, but actually I'm thinking of Winston.
Oh.
But I could be wrong. It
Morris.
could be
He
Coach.
is from this area. I know that for sure. Okay, and the last question. How many movies are there? And bonus point, when was the last one released?
Okay, well, you said 14, so I'm
I
gonna use. I don't know if that's the end of the line.
Oh, I mentioned number 14. You're saying so. There's at least 14.
So based on your reaction, though,
Shoot.
I'm gonna say there are 14 movies.
Incredible poker face on my part. Correct.
And if Reba McEntire was,
That she was in number 14.
I don't know. I'm gonna say like 2004,
So not close at all. 2016.
16.
Yeah, this was just 10 short years ago.
These movies were still coming out 10 years ago.
I know, and what I'm hearing is it's about time for a 10-year anniversary sequel.
Oh my God. I said 2004 because it's like
So
they could have
long
only
ago.
been 20 years ago.
Yeah, nope, not this time.
Wow. Okay, what a good little grateful.
Well, thank you so much for indulging me. Next time, my quiz will probably only be 3 questions.
Okay.
5 is a lot. Shall we transition into our topic?
What a transition that will be.
I know. I really wanted us to get all juiced up and like feeling loosey-goosey, and now we're going to have a dramatic shift. Because dun, 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 dun.
No, you know what? It doesn't have to be a dramatic shift because, like,
That's kind of what I was thinking when I did it.
yeah. We are talking about the erasure of Black history in psychology
Yes.
in honor of Black History Month, which it is still February. We almost didn't make it.
I know, because of our
February.
dang delays.
Yeah, although if this is coming out Monday.
It might come out a couple days after the fact, and we are very sorry about that.
Yes. We are recording it in February, though, so it's still
Yes, and we did attempt to record it several other times in February.
literally like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay. Before we talk about it, can I give a little caveat intro kind of thing?
Please.
Okay. So we're talking about the history of Black Americans in the field of psychology. Let's name the elephant in the room. We are not Black, and these aren't our lived experiences, and we're aware that many people believe that Black history should be learned directly from Black voices. And we felt the fear of, is this our story to tell, or are we overstepping? But ultimately, we know that Black history is American history, and specifically, it's directly tied to the history of psychology and therapy itself. And to not share these stories out of some misguided desire to be respectful would actually be participating in erasure, which is the thing that we're talking about today. Being an ally means doing the work to learn, to honor, and to share these truths, even when it feels uncomfortable. So today, we aren't here as experts. We're here as students and allies, shining a light on some stories from our field.
Yeah, I really appreciate that intro because I think it really does kind of set the groundwork of how we, especially me as a therapist, tend to approach cultures I don't know too much about or don't personally experience. Is this idea of like cultural humility, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later. But yeah, that's kind of like the perspective we're taking. We're humble, we're here to learn, and we're here to bolster other voices, right? Yeah. So yes, thank you for that intro.
Of course. Yes, like you said, we're just trying to shine a light on some true history that has unfortunately been erased from the public consciousness for a lot of different reasons, but mostly because of racism.
Yeah. I mean...
Sometimes sexism also.
Yes. I mean...
Or a combination.
Yeah, definitely. Should we maybe talk a little bit about what erasure is?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Because it's kind of like... It sounds like the kind of word that you'd be like, oh, I get what that means.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound like erase.
Yeah.
So, yes, through context clues, we can figure out what it means. But it is really the practice of removing and forgetting the contributions of marginalized groups from the history books. And there are many examples of that, which we will go over a little later. But we wanted everyone to kind of understand that, like, we're really being mindful of not doing that.
Yes, yeah. So that's really the whole idea of this episode is like it's anti-erasure. And the stories that we're going to talk about later, obviously it's not an exhaustive list. And to be more clear about what erasure means, it's not like if you went online, you would not be able to find any record of these people existing or their contributions. It's just that at the time, because of erasure, their work was suppressed, their legacy was like kept hidden for a really, really long time.
Or recreated by white doctors.
Right. Yes, credited to other people.
Yes.
And it's easy to look back with hindsight and say, like, how is this erasure if we can find them? And we'll get a little bit more into that, but essentially, because they're not part of common knowledge the way that some other founding members of psychology are, that in itself is erasure. The fact that they're not even thought of in the same groups.
Right.
So we're going to get to some specific examples in a little bit, but before we do that, let's kind of like root ourselves in history for a second. So is it okay if I keep going? So just so that we can understand kind of the foundation that we're working with in terms of like psychology of Black Americans, let's go back to an unfortunate, shitty time to think about. Let's go back to the 1850s. There was a Confederate doctor named Samuel Cartwright who invented a mental illness called drapetomania. And what he claimed was it was a disease that caused enslaved Black people to want freedom. Imagine wanting freedom. This dude was a serious piece of shit. He had other horrible contributions to early foundational psychology of enslaved people, including a fake disorder called dysesthesia, which was a condition which caused enslaved people to, imagine this, not like to work as slaves. So if people were not like just shutting up and being subjugated, there was something wrong with their brain and they needed some sort of correction. That was what this was used for.
Yeah. And isn't that like going back right to this idea that like psychology and therapy was created by white men for white men?
Exactly.
Right? Like this is exactly that, right? We've talked about how like hysteria was, you know, a method to suppress women. Yep. Like these are just created
out of whole cloth by imaginative racists.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And systems built on that.
Yes. Foundational research based on that.
Yes. Yes. And that is why we're choosing to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Some good?
Yeah. Me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about something really good from history. Okay. Let's go to the 1940s. In the 1940s, Mamie and Kenneth Clark, who were Black psychologists, they pioneered what's called the doll test. And in this test, well, actually, do you want to talk about the test?
Yeah, this test was, they have a range of different dolls, all identical except for their skin tone. Mm-hmm. And they really studied how children played and interacted with the dolls and what came out of these kind of social experiments. And of course, we see a lot of blatant preferences over certain skin tones. Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, some self-hate.
Yeah.
Right? Some Black kids experiencing self-hate. And
internalizing that the dolls who have darker skin are worth less than the dolls with lighter skin.
Yes. Because that is the rhetoric that is constantly being pushed. Mm-hmm. It's worth less.
I remember kind of like a similar, actually, I mean, it is the doll test. Actually, I remember seeing video of it when I was in psychology classes and like seeing really, really young Black children like saying directly to the administrator or the administrator of the test, like the white one is better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And nothing is different about these things. These are just like held beliefs that are, let me be very clear, learned behavior.
Yeah.
I always say that because like anything that can be learned can be unlearned. And so that just gives us hope that a lot of these things can be unlearned because it's all subjective? Objective.
Yes. Subjective.
Yes.
Objective means there's a definite truth.
Okay, then yes, subjective.
So Mamie and Kenneth Clark, they pioneered this study in the 40s, and they did essentially the version that we just talked about, and they studied this for like over 10 years, like 12 years they were doing repetitions of this study, and this study was used. It was the first time psychological research had ever been used in a Supreme Court case, and it was used in Brown versus Board of Education in 1954 to help desegregation. The idea behind this test and why it is so repeatable today is because like our society is so inundated with negative perceptions and portrayals of people of color, not just Black people, all people of color. Yeah. And it's not as overt as like a lot of people would want to think. Like it's all subtextual, internalized. It's stuff that doesn't come up unless you're like looking for it sometimes.
Right. Because like something as nuanced as like being typecasted, for example, as like the sidekick or the best friend, for example, it's like you can make the argument like, okay, well, Black people are being casted in more movies. It's like, but then, yeah, like how are they being represented in these movies? What are the roles that they're playing? What are the stories that they're telling? Are they actually accurate? You know, what beliefs are they instilling subconsciously in the viewers, right? Of like, oh, Black people are just friends, or are played these roles, or, you know, it limits. I think that's why like the argument of like letting Black people say for themselves, like tell their own stories is so vitally important.
Yes.
Because they get to decide their own representation, and they are not the ones who get to decide. Right.
Exactly. So like we said earlier, we're just trying to help participate in Not Erasure by sharing these stories. We're here as allies, and that's a good transition to a really common misconception that a lot of people who would consider themselves self-allies hold, is that science is objective. The reason why I shared that story about Samuel Cartwright in the 50s making up those fake diseases is to illustrate that science is not objective. Science is only as objective as the scientists who are doing it. And as we know, therapy, psychology, psychoanalysis, all of it for white men, by white men, all of it has to be adapted through a lens, essentially.
I mean, that's a big part of my job, literally on the daily, since a huge percentage of my clients are not white men, is having to translate all of this and make it relatable, understandable, applicable to the person sitting in front of me.
Yeah. Like even modern science, we can't say is completely, free of bias.
No, but I mean, is it silly to even talk about like the scientific method and why it is so important, and why like randomization or like participant like gathering participants is important, population that you're testing, what you're testing, how it's being presented, all of that matters. And that's all like 6th grade science.
Yeah.
That's all like first thing they teach you. And yet we still see this problem of researchers and scientists having a bias, and that's showing in their research.
Yeah, exactly. Can I just give one more early example of some garbage science?
Love garbage science.
Okay, so an early example of some garbage science that was used against Black people. And I call it garbage science because it's literally fake. It's called phrenology, which if you don't know what that is, it's the study of the bumps on people's heads. And quote unquote, doctors would read people's bumps on their heads to divine things like their internal mental health, their physical health, their futures. And they use this type of thing to basically codify in science that white people had a superior genetic makeup because it's fake, because they made it up.
Yeah, because it's all eugenics.
Yes,
it's just
all eugenics.
It's anything that would support that.
Yeah. So, so the foundation was rotten to the core. And so that's sort of like the echoes of that are what we're still fighting today.
Like imagine trying to plant new seeds when there are still roots of
dead
weeds
bodies
underneath. Yeah. Like they're going to suffocate these new flowers that we're trying to plant. And I feel like, yes, there's been a lot of progress, but there's still very unfertile soil that we do have to like correct and reframe.
Yeah, exactly. Were you going to say something?
No, I was going to move on to the next one.
Okay, cool. Me too.
Yeah.
Something we always like to talk about on this show is looking at things through an intersectional lens. But something we've never done on this show is actually credit who coined the phrase intersectionality.
Which was a Black person.
Yes, a Black feminist, civil rights activist, and professor of race and gender theory, Kimberly Crenshaw, in 1989 coined the term intersectionality. And it is in my opinion, an unparalleled framework that stands the test of time for almost 40 years now.
Yeah, I mean, truly, it's like I feel like I can't think about certain things without also considering intersections of it. You know?
Exactly. Like I can't even like
Our
trying
family.
to not. Yes.
Yeah. Like
trying to not view things at this point, to view things intersectionally is like tying a hand behind your back. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be blind to this other stuff by choice.
yeah. Yeah. And when you put it that way, it's just like more clear.
Yeah. They're scared. You're scared,
they're
little
scared.
Scared little closed-minded, scaredy cat.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You know which they were talking about. So one thing that I really wanted to highlight, this interesting concept, I think we've even talked about it on the show, this intersection of being Black and being a woman makes for some severe like challenges in life from external sources because of institutional misogyny and institutional racism. In 2008, Black feminist researcher Moya Bailey coined the term misogynoir, which is to describe this unique combination of like misogyny and anti-Black racism, specifically at Black women. So like, for example, Black women's symptoms of depression and even pain tolerance were historically dismissed as laziness or making things up or aggression, while white women's similar symptoms were treated with more empathy or cures of rest versus like cures of like, just get back on your feet and get back to it.
And like we talked about like the importance of even understanding that, like exactly that, right? These unique experiences, right? Black women have uniquely different experiences than women in general, or from Black men, or from Asian women.
Yeah, and to break it even further, Black women who are disabled versus Black women who are not, Black women who are, you know, any, like, you can keep going intersectionally, cross-section, down until you get to an individual.
And the thing is, like, when we're kind of like limited by, I guess, the scope of what we know and like the words that we even have, it can start to feel really lonely. It can start to feel like you're crazy because it's like no one else talks about this, no one else understands. And that's why it's so important that we do hear these words, that we do understand them and validate them, right? Like something like misogynoir is a very specific experience that deserves a name, you know? And like, I know that sounds so silly to say, but like, I think a lot of the times it does kind of boil down to that, like even naming it, validating it with a name, is vital.
Powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just still like sick and mucusy.
That's okay. I really appreciate your bravery and your constitutional fortitude to be here. Let's talk about some techniques that are sort of related to this whole concept. I've got one for our Black listeners. I've got one for therapists who have Black clients, and I've got another one for our Black listeners, actually.
Yeah, then let's go through them.
Okay.
You know, I think for a therapist, I mentioned earlier this idea of cultural humility and adopting that framework, where I think like historically I've used them maybe interchangeably sometimes, and maybe that's, you know, no, I don't think
I don't think you have.
I don't think I've used them interchangeably, but I think they are very similar in that they could get lost in meaning. Cultural competency versus cultural humility, right? Cultural competency, I think, evokes this idea that like you're done learning this thing.
You learned everything about this
that
one
you're
group.
competent in it. You know all that there is to know. Where like cultural humility is more so this idea of like we're constantly learning and growing, and that we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know the full story, and that the person in front of us does, because it's their story.
Yep.
And so I think both are important. I think having cultural competency is important, but only alongside the cultural humility part. Because even for me, like, for example, I've mentioned numerous times I'm Latina. My experience being a Latina woman is not going to be the same as every Latina woman sitting across, you know, on the couch in front of me. And so I can't go in there thinking that I know her experience, her story, her struggle, when I don't. You know, it's like I still need to have that cultural humility and understand like how do your family, how do you, you know, do things, go about things, believe in things, you know, what is important to you, because, and really my personal framework, my my understanding of my Latina culture, that's the cultural competency. Part of it is like knowing when that is applicable, when it's relatable, when, like, for example, even speaking the language, for example. I think clients who don't speak English and hear someone who speaks Spanish, there's a sense of relief in not having to explain everything, right? Or like explain a certain experience, or like we could all, sometimes someone can say something and evoke a feeling, and there's a lot of things unsaid that don't need to be said, right? So I think that's the cultural competency part, is like knowing when you can make those connections, but then when to take that step back and ask, tell me about your experience. What is important for you specifically? And valuing that over whatever my preconceived ideas are.
Yeah, that's a great one. We have an entire episode about cultural humility if you wanted to go back and listen to that also. Our next real applicable technique, we've talked about this before. It's called narrative reclamation. This is, the idea is you basically are rewriting your story from a more, how do I say this, generous to yourself or kind to yourself perspective, and trying to be more realistic about what things are in your control and what things aren't in your control. So, like, for example, instead of saying like, I'm just an anxious person, I'm inherently anxious, it's looking at your situation and being like, wow, I'm living in a really anxious kind of situation, and like
my anxiety is a very normal response
to this systemic pressure. It kind of takes the blame off of yourself for like being too weak to handle something, to just like, this is a normal reaction to an extremely strange and pretty hostile situation. And then the final technique that we wanted to share, this is called ancestral resilience mapping. So this is not just specific to, we're talking about our Black listeners right now, but this is for anybody who can draw power from this technique. This is identifying the quote unquote survival skills that your ancestors use. And I'm not talking about like hunting and foraging. I'm talking about like storytelling, music, gathering families, cultural meals.
Yeah, religion.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever, those kind of things that kept your community together.
Yeah. I mean, and that is powerful. I mean, really quickly, I can think of a ton of ways.
Share them. Or just a couple.
I mean, I think about my mom and like her creativeness, her craftiness.
Yeah.
And how like, I know that that's something that my grandma passed down to her, and ways of coping, ways of managing, ways of surviving. Like if they didn't have money to buy clothes, they freaking made their own clothes, and that's something that I still use now, like in potentially different ways, but like definitely brought on from my ancestors.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We've been kind of teasing it all episode. Shall we share some of these stories of erasure?
Let's do it.
Okay. Our first example is Dr. Francis Cecil Sumner, who is often called the father of Black psychology. A lot of textbooks credit the founders of various psychological branches, while Sumner is usually a footnote. In 1920, he was the first Black man to receive a PhD in psychology ever. So while that was happening, he had to navigate intense racial prejudice at Clark University, and his dissertation on psychoanalysis was often overlooked in favor of his white contemporaries like, have you heard of these people, Freud and Jung? He went on to establish the psychology department at Howard University, training the next generation of Black psychologists, including the Clarks. Remember Mamie and Kenneth Clark from earlier, who did the doll experiment. He taught them as well as the next generation of Black psychologists. And this group of people, his students and pupils, would eventually use their research to dismantle segregation.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, like, you better believe every psychology student knows exactly who Freud and Jung are.
Yep.
And I bet you fraction will know who Dr. Francis Cecil Sumner is.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Another good example is Dr. Alberta Banner Turner. Dr. Turner was a pioneer in developmental psychology, which is the study of how and why human beings change over the course of time. Vital to understanding psychology and understanding humans.
Yes, absolutely vital.
Yeah. And so, despite being one of the first Black women to earn a PhD in psychology in 1935, her work on the environmental factors influencing the intelligence and development of Black children was often dismissed by the mainstream field, of course, because no one cares about the development of Black children, which at the time was obsessed with this, and like everyone was kind of obsessed with this idea of like innate intelligence, which was the foundation of eugenics, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And so the impact really was that she shifted the conversation towards this environmentalism in psychology, arguing that poverty and lack of resources, not race, not anything that we're inherently born with, were really the primary factors or drivers in the developmental differences.
And guess what? That's what we still believe today.
It is totally what we still believe today, because it's not bullshit. It's not operating under this other motive of trying to erase or belittle a whole other population of people.
Yeah.
It is more so reflective of actual human experience.
Yeah, it's an empathetic observation of reality.
Yes, which is also much more aligned with the scientific method than these other things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate how much of history of science has been commandeered by people who are stridently not using the scientific method just to further their own agenda. And then one more story that we wanted to share, Dr. Herman George Canady. Dr. Canady was the first to look at the psychology of the testing situation. Did you experience anything with Dr. Canady's work when you were at school? Because I did, and it was very impactful.
Really?
So before Dr. Canady coined the term proctor bias, he was already researching it like way back in the 30s. And he came up with this idea of, well, he didn't come up with this idea, but he laid the groundwork for our modern understanding of something called stereotype threat. Now, stereotype threat is this phenomenon where people, when confronted with stereotypes about their race or gender, can sometimes essentially get so in their head about what the proctor of a test has said to them about their expectations of their failure that it will affect their score negatively. So this is stereotype threat, that the idea that you're so in your head about falling into this stereotype that you do anyway. Yeah. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when I was in school, I saw a demonstration of that firsthand, where a teacher came in and said they were doing a study for psychology. They didn't say what the study was about. They gave us, everyone in the class, a math test. And I should mention that my class was like probably 2 men and probably 22 women. And what he said at the beginning was something to the effect of like, guys, you're going to finish really quick. Just bring them up to me. And like, ladies, let's all pass them over here. I know it might take you a little bit longer, or something like that, right? Something really rude, obviously.
Like gendered,
yes.
a gender stereotype.
Yeah. And so there was also a control that had happened like a week earlier or something that was like, you know, a similar sort of test where that didn't happen. And they compared the two samples, and stereotype threat is real. Those people suffered on their scores on equivalent types of things, with the only difference being the stereotype threat. And so Dr. Canady was laying the groundwork for that in the 30s, and that's something that we're still struggling with today because we have not addressed it.
And that's interesting because that still puts a lot of the power in the proctor.
Yes, absolutely. Science can't be biased.
And like proctors, I mean, depending on what tests you take, but I mean, they could be your teacher. They can be literally anybody.
They could be anybody.
And like, I know for certain tests, like there is some training in terms of like, I don't know. I feel like having been in the school system a little bit, there is like some training in terms of like what you can say. You have to read a certain script or whatever.
Yes, that's a lot, or pretty tightly controlled these days. Yeah.
But like, having been in school myself, like I know that that's not it, and that
people don't adhere to that strictly.
Right. Anyway, that was just a little tangent.
Yeah. So we just want to share those. I don't know. Hopefully that goes a little bit towards helping with the erasure of their stories.
Yeah. And please know that, like, for most things, surface level, that feel and seem like, I don't know, just think critically, you know, do some research, dig a little deeper, see where some of these are coming from. What is motivating this research? What is you know, a lot of the things that we learn in school, I feel like, are still pretty valuable. Like I said, the scientific method, thinking critically, analyzing certain texts, or like, I don't know, and especially in college, like having to find reputable or like peer-reviewed sources was really annoying.
Multiple sources, like, for the same fact to make sure that it's correct.
But like now in practice, when we see the impacts of it in our real life, like that stuff is valuable. It's important for y'all to do your research, and I don't mean for ChatGPT to do your research. You know, I mean like for you to exercise that skill of thinking critically.
Be skeptical of weird things.
So that you can approach people with, and yourself with, like a little bit more empathy and understanding, and knowing that we are still all very interconnected. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you today, everyone.
We really appreciate y'all being here.
Yeah, and for coming back
with us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We just wanted to say, like, we're just trying to bring the message that erasure doesn't have to be permanent. Like we said, like a lot of these people's stories you can find online. It's important to just to know them. Yeah. I think that's it.
All right. Happy Black History Month, y'all. Yeah. And we will see you back here, hopefully, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, don't say hopefully. We will be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we will be back in 2 weeks.
All right. We love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Purple Friends is an independent podcast produced by Vibe Therapy Services and is not a substitute for a session with a real therapist.
Our show art was created by me, Jocelyn Lang.
And our theme music is Nature Nurture by me, The Implied Bear.
Vibe Therapy is an Illinois-based private practice servicing clients in person at our Wheaton office and virtually throughout the state of Illinois.
We accept Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO, Aetna, and Cigna insurance. We also offer cash pay rates, financial assistance, and free 15-minute initial consultations where you can get a feel for our practice.
Think of it as a vibe check. Therapy doesn't have to feel clinical. Visit vibetherapyservices.com today to see if we vibe.